What heartwarming story do you have to share that could cheer up anyone on Reddit? Hog. Recently my dog slipped her collar. It was 3 am and I was regrettably too lazy to remove her cone of shame and thunder jacket to put her harness on. She bolted. We couldn't find her. She's not the brightest. She's 90% anxiety and 10% snuggles and she's 14 pounds. I thought she was gone forever and cried myself to sleep. We would reconvene in the daylight. At 8:15 the next morning I got a call. She'd been found. A woman was on her morning run and the dog ran right up to her like, /hello. I rescued a cat some years ago. She turned up at my farm/weekend retreat one sunny Sunday in late October. She was a sweet calico and liked people, so I thought she was someone's pet, even though the nearest home is a mile away. I left to go to work for the week. Next weekend she was still there, living under the house. It was getting cold and snowy, and given she had not gone home she would starve/freeze. I took her to my faraway home in the city. I quickly found she was not house trained. She also really liked the outdoors and was not keen to be inside a house. I took her to the vet, where she had no chip and had never been fixed. She was in fine health and got her shots. The vet insisted to wait 2 weeks before having her spotted. She didn't like our home, but loved the warehouse and offices I had at work. I sure she was a barn cat from a nearby dairy farm. They have lots of cats and occasionally one get forced out. It's unusual for a barn cat, but she was very warm, affectionate and fearless. Warehouse/construction equipment and machinery did not scare her. She knew to get out of the way, jump on a shelf and watch, as she probably did in the dairy barn. In that 2 weeks she was due to be fixed. She had a date with a tomcat and became pregnant. The vet was quite prepared to spot her and remove any kittens, but I just could not do that. So in a few weeks she had the 2 cutest little kittens you ever saw. Once they were weaned, I gave them to my parents, who loved them and got them all fixed. Life for my kitty was good. Our warehouse overlooked a ravine/wilderness/river, so she roamed the wilds during the day and came home before closing, and slept in my office. During the winters, when it was cold and snowy outside, she was happy to roam the warehouse. She never touched a bird but was the best mouser and rat catcher you ever saw, and did us a big favor in keeping the place free of pests. She had loads of love, affection, smarts and personality, very interactive, more like a dog than a cat. She even learned to respond to commands, not words but hand signs. I never met another cat quite like her. I'm thankful we found each other. Uncle Iro once taught me that the flower born in adversity is the most beautiful and rare. My husband's story technically, but it's uplifting. He's a phlebotomist and was drawing a boy around 7. My husband does the blood draw. He said the boy just closed his eyes tight and sat perfectly still the whole time. My husband was so proud of him and was telling him. He was telling the kid he did better than most adults. The little boy looks at my husband and says /well. My wife complains she can't lose weight, so I helped her get from 230 to 200. Then she thought 190 was impossible. So when she got to 190 I helped her get to 180. She finally got to 135, her goal weight. But here's the thing, it's okay to stagnate for a bit. Eat a pizza, a Big Mac or 10, go a day, a week off your diet. You can do it. I believe in all of you that want to achieve your goals, that no matter what it is, you can do it. Just when the burnout comes, and you're tired of it but yet you don't want to fully stop, it's okay to take a break just as long as you come back and finish it. Everyone reaches the last lap at their own pace. /today. My husband and I take care of a family of feral cats. They're fixed, they get fed, they have warm sleeping places, and can climb up on the roof, but they prefer to keep their distance from humans. Occasionally, the 2 sisters will have a dispute and start swatting at one another. When this happens, the shy little brother cat will purposely walk between them, and they instantly stop fighting. Earlier this year, I had my first real job. I was still in college and had applied at the school bookstore for a seasonal position right before Christmas. I got the job, but didn't start till around Martin Luther King's birthday. On I think my second day of work, I was still getting used to everything, was very nervous and kinda felt lonely and left out since I was a new person and didn't know anyone. You know how it is when you're new at a job. I had just gotten back from my lunch break and I was starting to pack up an order in the online room to go out for delivery, and in walks this girl I've never seen before. I supposed she was a new hire like me and she started doing the same stuff at the same table as me. We looked at each other and all of a sudden out of nowhere, just started talking like we had known each other all our lives. That kind of thing never happens to me. I am super shy, I rarely talk to anyone unless they speak to me first. I wish I could fully explain the magnitude of how strange and unique this situation was for me. We were best friends immediately, spent the whole rest of our shifts together and every shift we had together afterwards. It was my senior year, I had just that semester left before I graduated, and she was the first and only friend I made at college. We both ended up losing the job because it was seasonal, but when I did lose it, I actually cried lol. I was so sad that we wouldn't be able to hang out all the time each week during our job. I've had anxiety all my life and it's kept me from doing a lot. I'm glad I pushed myself to get the job because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have met her. I'm so beyond thankful that I met her and we are still best friends. I asked her recently how. My dog, Daisy, has times when she has a really happy day. We call it a Daisy. My ex had a parakeet that was super randoxirus and was very interactive vocal. Whenever anything would happen with the bird, like it slipping off of whatever it was climbing on or it running into an object, my ex would ask the bird, "Oh no, are you okay?" One day my girlfriend sneezed, and the parakeet looked at her and asked my ex her. I'm bisexual. I pretty much always knew, given once I started getting crushes they were always on both girls and boys. I just didn't know there was a name for it until I understood what family members meant when they were saying bad things about LGBT people. And by then it was when I would actually date other people as opposed to the more innocent crushes of elementary years. So I kept it secret. I did keep a diary thought and I wrote about a girl crush in one and my dad read it and freaked out. So I totally denied everything. My one also sent me some article about calling out gay people on their sin, so I assumed she suspected too and totally denied it to her as well. Well, in my later 20s I finally told both of them despite my fears. I learned my dad freaked out cause at that time I was 15 and he didn't want me to be sexually active. And he's entirely supportive. I learned my mom actually agreed with the reference in the article about a pastor who loves his kid because he's gay, and not in spite of it. And she supports me too, although is pretty confused about the whole thing. TL:// I figured my religious and apparently anti-LGBT parents wouldn't accept me for being bi. When I finally told them they were supportive and not upset at all. My daughter has a very rare genetic disorder. It causes physical and intellectual disabilities. She doesn't really have friends, so birthday parties are not a thing. We have found other ways to make her birthday special, like going to a baseball game and handing out cupcake to people sitting near us. We spend a decent amount of time at a major theme park because she enjoys the excitement, character interactions and shows. The people who work there have come to know her and she calls them her best friends. If she tells us she wants to visit her friends, she means going to this theme park. During a visit to the park near her 16th birthday, she mentioned to the workers that her birthday was near and that all she wanted was to spend the day with her. When my oldest daughter left for university and moved 3,000 kilometers away, I was devastated. The sense of loss was overwhelming. We didn't. One story from my hometown comes to mind. A dairy farm had about 60 head of milking cows, Guernseys, Jerseys, and Holsteins, plus several horses and a flock of sheep with baby lambs. Everyone loved it because of the summer farm stand where people bought all manner of fresh fruit and vegetables, apple cider in the fall and pumpkins. Kids enjoyed the petting the lambs. Then, one night, there was a major fire in the barn that started in the hayloft overhead. Volunteer firemen rushed to the scene along with neighbors and rescued the majority of animals before the structure burned to the ground. The community helped the farming family rebuild and took care of the animals the best possible during the process. Today, the farm is thriving and many of the cows, horses, and sheep are direct descendants of those that survived that horrific fire. My 98 years old grandpa beats coronavirus like a champion. This big, beautiful, deaf, cuddly ball of fur sitting next to me, was 12 hours from euthanization, and I happened to notice her on my way out of the back area of the pound, after looking at another dog. I gave her some attention and walked out into the lobby to ask about the first dog, when I saw her name on the kill list, with a date for the next day. She's been with me for 3 years now, and I can't imagine a day without her. My fiance was abused growing up by both parents. He was so scared of having a child because he didn't. 9 years ago from r/AskReddit by u/Roner to the question /have. I have a teacher that has sponsored many of his students through high school, college and university. Many of them were orphans with no one to go to or from impoverished backgrounds. He is very famous in our region and earns a lot both from his job and extra tuition classes he teaches. People from all over the region come to his classes, but I bought a dwarf lime tree a few months back who is potted on my veranda. I was not expecting any fruits. I was out doing a couple errands for my job and I had to stop at the gas station for some propane. A guy walked up to me and asked /excuse. In a family of traditional marriage and a community that believes that love marriage won't last long, my cousin got married to someone she loves despite parents of both sides disapproval, pranked her now husband on their first date and wedding day, supported and built a business for her husband's siblings, got severely sick that she had to go to Germany for treatment and recently came back along with her husband to her 5 kids who were raised by both the families, all better now. Recently is their 11th anniversary together. Ever since I started doing yoga, my dogs have been coming closer to me. That 2 people got $120 awards in this thread. My brother Marky has a son who isn't. Well, when I was 6, my grandpa always had a race who could eat the fastest. When he got sick I didn't see him in a long time. When I did see him again we had dinner. The first thing he said to me was /wanna. I worked with a rugby company in NYC a few years ago doing video, photography, social media. They teach rugby in elementary schools and I was at one of them in the Bronx shooting video. At one of the breaks I got the infamous /u Ray. My 25th sister's 29th best friend 29th of 13 years is now my girlfriend and it couldn't. My cat woke me up from a really bad dream last night. He must have heard me crying in my sleep because the next thing I knew, there was 10 pounds of fur and slobbery kisses in my face. He laid with me until I calmed down, purring like a madman. Once I was relaxed to his liking, he hopped back down onto the floor to continue his evening hunt. Thank you for the award, kind stranger. Sometimes if I recommend my youngest sister a show she will watch it, and sometimes when I go to where my sister is I can hear the audio of a show I recommended her and that makes me smile. Showing her RWBD, yes RWBD, and she's already done with the 7th volume, ADLA, and recently she was one of my greatest times and we both bonded of our love for the shows. When I was in 5th to 6th grade, there was a stray kitty in our backyard I called Tommy. She had kittens under our AC unit. One night it was pouring down rain. We decided we wanted to go check on Tommy and her babies, because their little hole was probably gonna flood. We pulled back the blinds from the sliding glass door into the backyard. Tommy was standing there. She led us back to her babies, and lo and behold, their little home was flooded. We took them inside and got them nice and dry. Tommy had come to get us because she knew we would help her. I think about this a lot. I was hosting a party for the rec team I coached at a games and prizes style pizza place. My boys, who were not on the team girls volleyball, were off doing their own thing. Well, between the 2 of them, they amassed about a grillion tickets, but had no interest in the prizes. They asked what they should do with the tickets and I suggested they find some little kid out there and give them the tickets. They chose some 4 or 5-year-old girl and made that kid's day. I was approached by the girl's mom about 15 minutes later. It took her a while to find what parent belonged to the boys. She asked why they gave up their tickets and I explained that they were in for the thrill of the win, not the prize. She said that her daughter had cancer and that the boys' random gift to her was really appreciated and was a needed bright point for her. They had no idea, I didn't influence who they chose, and frankly, I am not attentive enough to have even figured it out. It was just a little gift from the universe to someone who suffered far too much. That girl's smile lit up the whole place. I've been having a super rough time lately. Budding alcoholism, anxiety, stomach aches constantly, crying myself to sleep. My parents are on the other side of the pond, so they could only do so much to help. After a bad video call with them that I had to end early because I started crying again, my dad sent me a super long text pouring his heart out to me. How he'd struggled with alcohol in uni as well, how he nearly failed out his second year like I'd been stressing over myself, how he missed out on some of his dreams because of circumstances outside of his control. A couple of the lines in his message left me tearing up. Greater than if you decide to come home, Web. A few years ago I had adopted a hamster called Bam Bam. He was a shy, old dude, but really gentle and lazy. My nephew was diagnosed with a genetic disorder at the age of 6 months. He had a cold which turned into a nightmare overnight when barely breathing. After being rushed to children. I'm not musically inclined, but I sing well enough that I was in a choir for all of junior high and high school. Over that time, music in general became a huge deal to me and singing brought me a lot of joy. But I'm not talented enough to continue with music into college. About a month before I graduated high school, my grandpa gave me a ukulele and taught me how to play /u. Here's a story about my have-beens long ago. Warms my heart. It may seem sad, but it makes me laugh, nowadays. I stole the title from the Doobie Brothers. \________________________ What a fool believes background music right square bracket left parenthesis https://www.youtube.com/watch?v=j1u4m. There was this girl in high school. Smart, beautiful, redhead, thin, but curvy. Led by a friend who must have been in a world of his own, walked away from a cash point leaving his money hanging out of the machine. The next user was a kid of about 16. My friend was halfway along the street when the kid ran up to him and handed over his missing cash. His story is a little old, but I just told it last night to someone. A few years ago I had to work on Easter. I'm not religious anymore, but I was still bummed to work on a day where all of my friends had off. I took the bus and was grouchy. The bus driver greeted every single rider with a smile and a \how. This should be its own sub. This is a story I heard whilst in Japan. It happened at one of the restaurants at Tokyo Disneyland. A young couple had entered the restaurant. The attendant escorted them to a couple's table and handed them the menu. However, without even glancing at the menu, the couple asked the attendant, \food. Doctor, some people will actually be rooting for your success. I was in 6th grade. Spider-Man and some other superheroes movies were playing on TV during that week. My friends and I spent our break time watching them on our canteen's TV. One of the lady who worked there would remind us to get back to class after break. Education is very important, she would say. As kids, we obviously didn't take that advice seriously, but she's a very nice lady, so we just nodded. Fast forward to finals week. We were hanging in the canteen when the lady approached us. She promised that she would give money to anyone with the highest score. Every single day of the week she would cheer us up. I think none of us actually wanted to get that money. We just wanted to graduate, but the good morale support is still a good thing to have. Months passed and I already went to junior high school just near my elementary school. One day on my way to school, I heard someone called my name. It was the canteen lady. She remembered my name. She congratulated me for having the highest score in my class, took her wallet out, and gave some money she promised months ago. A promise that even I already forgot. She gave me some small talk about education again and told me that she would always pray for my success. TBH, I only were happy for the money at that time. But as I grew older I realized that I should be more grateful for her support and faith in me and my friends. P.S. To the canteen lady, wherever you are now, I will always remember you and your support. I adopted a turtle who had been neglected, left in her tank with nothing to do, a food bowl she could barely eat from, a water bowl that she could hardly drink from. I got her home and started trying to make her happy. Bigger tanks in the living room, so plenty of company, better food, better dish, a tiny swimming pool. Finally I read that turtles sometimes like to eat eggshells to support their own shell building, and so I gave her some eggshell and she sang. She threw back her little head and went /chirp. Today is kind of my dog's birthday. We adopted him today last year. We got a cat from PetSmart around 3.5 years ago that we named Copper. He was the cutest little thing, and to go along with him also get his brother, Mittens, who unlike the rest of the kittens of their litter, was a tuxedo black instead of all the gingers. We took them to the vet a week later, where we found out Copper had feline leukemia. We were really sad. He was such a nice cat, loved everyone, and we did all that we could to ensure he lives a long, happy life. The doctor said there was a less than 10% chance of him living for beyond the first few months, and a near impossible chance I was in year 3. Fate day was coming up at school. It was my turn to stand in front of 200 plus kids, teachers and parents at school parade to advertise what our class was doing for the school fete. We had a stall where parents would donate a jar of stuffed lollies, little toys etc. and put it on a table for peeps to win. I practiced his 2-sentence presentation for a week. There was one word I was having trouble pronouncing. B. My wife was helping an elderly couple out of their car and into a restaurant we were also visiting that day. She was very thankful and commended us for helping saying /there. I'm lucky enough to own an uncommon classic car. On holiday abroad, I had some trouble, and I asked on Facebook in a group specifically for that type of car what the problem could be. Instead of just suggesting what it could be, a few people started to contact people in their circles, asking if there was anybody that could help me. A Facebook friend of a Facebook friend, so nobody actually knew each other, gave me his home address and I managed to make it there. I was invited in for a cup of tea and a chat while the motor cooled, and after an hour and a full tour of their house, we got to work. 2 hours later we went for a test drive, and even though the problems weren't completely gone, the car drove well enough that I trusted it to bring me home. And it did. Thanks to a total stranger, who liked my car. It was the first time he ever saw one kneel. He loved the test drive, and didn't want any payment whatsoever. People from that brand of car tend to call themselves one big family, and that was proven that day. And then there was the time when in another foreign country my other car's clutch cable broke. It was fixed on the side of the road by another total stranger. Yet, family. 3. I spent all day waiting in line outside the theater for the midnight premiere of episode I. In the afternoon my wife comes to see me, with our 1-year-old son and 2-year-old daughter in tow. I knew one of the theater employees was rocking a pretty authentic Vetter costume, and although he was almost a foot shorter than me I figured the kids wouldn't notice. I banged on the locked front doors until someone opened it to see what my problem was, and I asked if my kids could see a named employee and his costume. We were let inside and I went and found him. He put the helmet on and strode into the lobby. My son wasn't impressed, but my daughter gasped, set down her sippy cup, walked up to him very slowly, hugged his leg and whispered /hi. A quote out of nowhere from my at the time 4-year-old niece /if. We adopted a cat that turned up at our house a few months back. The other day, he stole a sausage off my plate. I chased him around the garden with the sausage hanging out of his mouth. He used every trick in the book to avoid me. He got that sausage all to himself in the end. We have discovered he is a food fiend and will eat anything and everything. He has learned how to open Tupperware containers, peel off cling film from leftovers, and even does tricks for food. Little Chunk is a legendary beast of a cat. In middle school I had a really rough time. We were homeless for a year after being kicked out of an abusive household, and my brother and I slept on my aunt's couch while my mom slept on the floor. I had really bad depression and anxiety and couldn't. I just paid ice cream for 2 boys who miscalculated. Good deed for the day. For a bigger good deed, I did an exchange semester in Spain, and due to circumstances I arrived by train in the city. What I knew was that they had multiple stations with similar name. I just assumed it's like a train and a subway or bus and they're all pretty close. They're not. The train station is a good bit away. I did not have data yet and I was so lost, but got the train.ny. Spanish was not good yet, and in the bus I tried to find out where to exit and how to get to my dorm. I was exhausted, tired, stressed and overwhelmed by it all. A nice elderly lady started chatting to me, and I guess it must have been difficult to get me, but she was very patient and loving. She asked where I was heading. We left at the same stop. She pointed it out as the right one, and then pointed me to my dorm. I was very relieved and happy.